Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started. Welcome back to the interview recap, where my co-host in life, Brad, and I are going to talk about the emotionally available convo I had with Jeremy and Zach in our last episode. If you haven't yet listened to that one, pause this now, go back and listen to that one, or listen to this one and then listen to that one. I mean, honestly, I think you could do either order on all of our episodes. I also know from the downloads that some of you just do the recap. So I feel like everyone's we got a lot of people who enjoy the short version.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good recap. Those guys seem pretty cool. I'm a big Star Wars fan myself, so maybe we'll be hanging out and doing Star Wars talking someday.
I feel like whenever I interview any men, they bring up Star Wars. I think there's very few interviews with men that have not brought up Star Wars. So
many men
maybe
wish death upon me.
Like maybe Michael's is the only one.
Yeah, right.
So anyways, I thought they were really amazing, and it was a really unique conversation to have, and there's some very awesome be it action items that we get to talk about. But I just want to say it's so nice to be back from Dallas on this like really short opportunity to be in our house together. It's been a crazy, like we were talking about this in Arizona, or maybe it was in Cambodia, about how since end of August we really haven't been home for a full 2 weeks ever.
Yeah, and clearly stated from the fact that you can't remember where we were when we were talking about this.
No, and then also when we were home, there were people here at the home. So like right now we have like 6 days together in our home for the first time
in a long time.
August. I don't think we've had 6 days in our home together without anyone in our home. No. 5 is the longest.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was between photo shoots, and we had to go. Anyways, so I just got back from an amazing time in Dallas with Erica Quest. She is she's a fucking amazing person, one of my best friends. And we have now made this an annual trip to teach in Dallas. And we're actually going right back there, Brad and I, exactly to where I was for our tour.
Left out.
Yeah.
So, well, I thought I'd crash the party and actually just take over and do my own.
Our Pilates lovers there were missing Brad, and specifically also a workout. So we are going on tour, and our first stop is in Frisco. If there are any spots left in any of our classes at our tour, you can find them at onlinepilatesclasses.com/tour.
Yeah, we'll be doing 2 in Frisco and then Houston the next day.
And then we head to Nashville. Hi, Lauren Zoller. And we've got a bunch of favorite people in Nashville. And then we are going to Atlanta, to Joel's studio. Mm-hmm. It's actually outside of Atlanta. It's called Duluth. Don't complain about the drive. If you live in Atlanta, you can do this. And then we go to Greensboro, which
North
is
Carolina.
Like, hey, first time doing that.
Yeah, that'll be a first.
And then we're going to do a little Christmas time. Then it's Cleveland. Then it's St. Louis. And then we are home in time for New Year's for our friend's
wedding. But we will
be
stopping through Denver for lunch. So
yeah, Denver
on the way home at post Xmas, we'll be fooding it in Denver.
We'll be fooding it in Denver for lunch. Yeah. We're going to pick a spot where maybe the spot we went to last year where people could just buy food anywhere. So that was pretty great. Actually. So we'll figure out whatever the place that was. But if you are in Denver and you want to be on that invite list, just watch out for emails and stuff. If you want to go on the tour, go to onlinepilatesclasses.com/tour. Also, a couple things if you're like hanging out with us. We have actually announced our pre-sale for the Cambodia retreat next year. Remember, we're only doing one, and we let our waitlisters know first. So if you were not on the wait list, and you really want to go, well, I hope there's a spot for you. I'm sure there will be. And if not, just DM me and I will help you get that information so you do not miss out on the opportunity to go to Cambodia with us, because we're only going one time next year.
Yep.
So there's that. And then finally, so excited about this. You probably haven't heard me talk about it for a while. And that's because honestly, it keeps selling out. So I haven't even like brought it up, but if you have been following this pod for a while, you know that I have a mentorship program for Pilates teachers. It's called Elevate. And we decided to do our first round here in 2022. It sold out. It was amazing, amazing crew. So we did a second round, which sold out. And then the third round, we're actually going to kick off in May. And that of 2023, which I know you're like, Lesley, it's only December. Yes, but you know, mentorships are a big commitment and we like to give people a lot of time to plan for them. And it does start in May and there's only a couple spots. So if you are a Pilates teacher who's wanted to dive into the classical method more, understand how I was taught, become like a more of a master teacher, third generation instructor, things like that. If you're wanting to like teach more but not be burnt out, this is the program for you.
Yeah, or even explore classical. You know, if you're coming from a non-classical foundational training, you know, this is a great opportunity to get into all of that too.
Yeah, so you don't have to be classical to do this. You don't have to be contemporary to do this. You can be either or. You just have to have been a teacher already.
And at the time we're recording this, there are 3 spots available. But if they are full by the time you hear this, we'll add you to the wait list for the next round, for round 4. So
So you'll go to lesleylogan.co/elevate. And it's one of my passion. I freaking love this group of people. It's just so fun for us. So anyways.
And you get to join the rad alumni group.
I know. Once you graduate, there is an alumni group.
It's a great group of ladies.
Then there's like, you know, we're secretly behind the scenes planning like a retreat just for elevators. And so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
Anyways,
tell.
Well, it's not a secret that I told you, but you don't know where it is or what's going to happen. So that's a secret. Anyways. Do we have an audience question to respond to before we start talking about fitness?
We do. So we were asked, with all the things that you have going on in your life and your business and your friends and family, how do you make decisions about the upcoming year, and how do you plan for the next year?
Yeah, well, that's like, this is a great question.
It's also a very broad question.
It's super broad. Well, we're gonna narrow it into the Be It Till You See It podcast as the filter.
Sure.
So first of all, very important that you ask yourself this, because if you don't plan for yourself, you will be planned. Don't worry. Like, it's not like
it happens whether you plan or not.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like when Hillary says, if you don't brand yourself, other people will brand you. Like if you don't make goals,
Hillary Hartling.
Yeah, someone else is gonna make goals for you. Like,
right.
So it's important that you take time to set aside like what you want in your next year. And if you're like, I don't know what that is, because some people like to do that. How do you want to feel then? Like, what does that look like? So make sure you're setting aside time. I like to journal, draw, go for a walk, think about things, like to percolate on it a lot.
She was on episode 57.
Yeah. And so I'll let Brad answer how he likes to plan his upcoming year. But first and foremost, I definitely, throughout the current year, do retrospections that Corrine Walsh has taught us. She was episode, Brad will tell you in a second, and she has a free resource that you can learn how to do this retrospection. But I do it throughout the year because I like to know how as the year is going, like what I don't want in next year, so that when the new year comes, I'm not like, I'm doing that thing I don't want to do anymore. And often when you know what you don't want, it'll let you know what you do want. And then we actually probably plan the next year around beginning of Q4, because we have
usually.
to. And some things that we do happen the same time-ish every year. So those things happen like they're already planned. But then the next thing I like to think about, and it's hard, this is the hard part, this is why this podcast exists, is who do you have to be to have the thing you want to have next year, and how can you start acting like it now so it actually happens? Hello, be it till you see it.
Well, let me jump in, because that's a perfect segue. I'm in the middle of a book right now called The As If Principle, by a guy named Richard Weissman.
If you guys know him, can you help me out? Because y'all, I have been trying to find this man's information. And I want him on the podcast.
Yeah, totally. Richard Weissman, and a general summary of the concept is to make decisions as if you already are where you want to be. Right? So if you want to be... here's a great example. Let's say you want to run a studio that has a team of 10 instructors. 10 today you don't have that, but you know that that's where you're going. So if you were going to set up a studio, how would you set up the studio? You would set it up as if you already had 10 instructors.
Yeah.
Right. So like, would you have a space for lockers? Would you have a spot for shoes? And like, what are the expectations? How are they checking in? How are they clocking in as an employee? All these kinds of things. You make these decisions as if they're already in place.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean you spend the money on the clocking in machine or the lockers yet. But
not necessarily.
You hold that you make sure that you hold the space, and you consider that as you're looking for spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs will talk about this. Act as if you are already the 7-figure business you want to be. If you are looking to start a family, act as if you already have kids. How would you make a decision? I think Lesley has talked about this before in your personal life when you were looking to meet someone and start a relationship. You were acting as if you already had a relationship happening, which was making coffee for two.
Making coffee for two people. Also making sure that I had evenings or time blocked off that I could not work in case I would go on a date or spend time with that person.
Sure.
And I literally went to New York, my first Christmas being single, so that I wouldn't go to my parents' house for Christmas, because I was like, no, I'm going to meet a man whose family celebrates Christmas and will celebrate Thanksgiving with my family.
Right.
And so I'm not going to go home for Christmas, which really pissed him off. Sorry, guys. But I went to New York instead. And then guess what? We spent Christmas with your family.
Yeah.
So it worked out.
So, this concept of acting as if, I think it's really cool. I think I think the hardest part is remembering to do it, to be honest, because it makes sense to me. It's very logical. I like it.
It's because it's easier to do the thing you already been doing and be the person you already are. And because that's, that. So I think, like, first of all, if you start acting as if, and then you revert back to who you once were, it's okay, because you don't have to be perfect. But also, if you notice that you did that, then you can make a change. Okay, what would I do next time? How can I, if you set an appointment based on the person you currently are, not the person you want to be, can you cancel the appointment? Can you reschedule the appointment? Can you block your calendar out so that the appointment doesn't exist anymore?
It's consummate be it till you see it. I think it's like a perfect parallel here. And I mean, that's obviously why we'd love to get
that's why we want it.
Richard on the pod.
So who knows him?
But
yeah, I love this question. I hope that helps. I feel like it could be a little esoteric, but it's like, if sometimes it is easier to think about what you don't want to have happen in your life next year to figure out what you want to have happen in your life. And sometimes it's easier to figure out how you want to feel in your life next year at the end of it. And then what would be the things that have to happen to make you feel that way? And then finally, who do you have to be to make those things happen? How do you act like that person today? It is a consummate be until you see it. It's also like, how would Oprah do this? Like sometimes that's what I have to think sometimes. Oprah do this.
Oh,
like,
Oprah.
Yeah. Like we have a big goal that we want to hit in our business. And I had to make changes in my life, in my routine, and in how I work to make us get closer to that this year. If I want to do it next year I like up the goal a little bit, because you have to. And because I want more. And so it's like, okay, well then who do I have to be to that? And sometimes I think Oprah, or I picture other female business owners who have done things that I want to do. Maybe it's not exactly the same, but like in the most general term, it's the same thing. And then I'm like, okay, well, how would they do it? Because they're already there. And I could probably look back at examples of what they did and then interpret it for myself. So anyways, I love these questions. Y'all can send them in to the Beit Pod on Instagram, or you can send it into my team. You can send it anywhere and just say this is for the Beit Pod. You can also send in your bold moments. It's where you take a Beit action item. And
tell us your bold moments. Tell us what's been going on for you. We love to shout that out.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about Jeremy and Zach from The Fit Mess. Introduced through their wives, because they said their wives both had daughters at the same time. So I'm guessing they met at something to do with the kids.
I know. This totally made me think of like you and Eddie and all of Eddie's friends, because it's basically because of Chanda, Ashley, myself, and a couple other wives that you all got together and expanded and made your own friends.
Well, Jeremy and Zach formed a quick friendship because of their love of Star Wars. They began to have more intentional conversations about their challenges and their struggles, mental, physical, and emotional, which led them to the creation of their podcast, The Fit Mess. Zach and Jeremy are on a mission to share their stories and struggles, to empower men to discuss their feelings and emotions, and to motivate them to take small steps each week towards a more fulfilling life. And then they also said that a large part of their audience is actually the girlfriends and wives of the men that they're speaking to. But I thought it was really fun to connect with them, to listen to them talk about their experience. Not my football players, but many of the men that I taught in Pilates, I taught them because of their wives. So I would teach their wives, and there was husband should be doing this, and I'm like, okay, send them in. And they would. And so it's why for a long time, I had more male clients than female clients. Huh. But because when you add the football players and then the husbands, I was like, well, that's not at all the intention that I had. But you know what? There are great people that introduce great people, and I think that's what's really cool. So they were talking about, you don't have to go through your thoughts alone, other people in the same place. And so this happened when they realized that they were all sort of talking around how they were feeling and not really engaging. But when they finally just did and were just honest about it, they were like, oh, wow, this person feels the same way too. And, I know that they were talking about how a lot of men go through this, but if you listen back to the recent episode with Jessica Vallant, where we brought her back, she's like, women are on the school line and they're not talking about how they're really feeling either. They're not talking about what they're really going through either. And so I love that they have a podcast that they're basically sharing this idea so that other men know you don't have to go through this alone and that you can share your real feelings. But I think in general, what it sounds like is most people are not sharing their authentic feelings with other people in their lives until it's this big thing. And what if we actually did it throughout the day, throughout the week with the people that we see often? Yeah, I think it's, I think that's a good observation. I think that's funny that I didn't actually, I listened to it twice and I didn't actually think about that, but you're right. If the conversation is about sharing their feelings, genuinely sharing, you're right. The implication is that people don't do that, especially men. So I also thought they kind of had a laugh about it. They were like, well, yeah, the first time we went out to lunch, it was like, I guess we'll talk about cars and sports and stuff that generally I'm not into, and I was laughing because I was like, oh yeah, okay. I mean, I'm into motorcycles, but I don't really nerd out that much. I couldn't tell you about some 1965 motorcycle or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I did think of you on that because it's true. I think people have the assumption that that's what men want to talk about.
Right.
Just like they assume women want to talk about these other things, like kids. Yeah. I don't know. Family,
marriage, wedding,
no woman actually wants you to ask her about the next wedding date or when are they going to have kids or if they're going to have, no one, one of my friends recently asked me because we were talking about her kid and she just said, hey, it came up in a way that was not actually when are you going to have kids? You know what I mean? It was have you guys thought about that? I don't know. We haven't talked about it. And we had an honest conversation around it, but I definitely think that people have these standard questions that they ask people at events and none of them go deep at all. And it's right. And that's why no one wants to go to anything.
Small talk.
No one wants to have small talk. So what if, one of my breathwork coaches, she sends out an email every week and it says, hey, so-and-so, how are you really? And I fucking love that because every time I read it, I'm like, how am I really? You know what I mean? Really? No one's actually asked me that this week. Yeah. People ask me, how are you? But they're expecting, I'm good. Because they're already on to the next sentence. They're not listening. So I love that email so much because it lets me think how am I really? So I don't know. I feel like whether it's men or women or even non-binary, I feel like we could all do a better job being it till we see it in the conversations that we want to have. Asking better questions that actually allow us to learn more about the people that we're having a conversation with. You and I are in a mastermind, and there was a couple girls that I've really never I've talked to, been in this group before, but then we actually asked different questions, and I'm like, oh my God, how come we've not talked for the whole year? We do the same thing. We're going through the same thing.
Well, it was definitely funny. You know, it's one of those where, I don't know, I guess you find yourself in the same group or the same clique or the same, you know, conversation over and over and over again. And this time it was just it was happenstance. We were supposed to go to dinner with a group, and then plans changed, and we showed up at the restaurant, and then surprise, another group was already there. And we bumped into them inadvertently. Like who knew?
Well, this is so crazy. So we made a reservation for 5.
Yeah.
And 5 people at 6:00. And then like 20 minutes before we're supposed to have dinner, 3 of the 5 people, so we're 2 of them, weren't going to come to that because one of them had already been at the restaurant. No big deal. We didn't call to change the reservation. We just showed up.
Yeah.
We walk in. There's 3 girls from our mastermind that we had not planned with. They did not have a reservation. We're like, great, you're having dinner with us.
Yeah, and we actually, like, you know, of course we know them, but like we haven't had a chance to hang with them, to have like one-on-ones and all the things. And that was lovely.
It was so lovely, and like we'll have to figure out how to have some of them on the pod because
we definitely went deeper than that's the thing. That what gave us an opportunity to actually go deeper than the casual, like, hey, cool, how's it going? What have you been up to? Next.
Yeah. Well, we got down to like we knew each other's food allergies, so we're literally at sushi dinner. I'm like, you can have this, I can't have that. You can have that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was funny.
Anyways, I love that their podcast and their relationship stemmed from this idea that they both had this problem. And they realized that they weren't going through it alone. So they decided to go through it together and be the example of what they want to see in this world. I fucking love that. So what did you love that they said?
Yeah. Well, so I thought there was something really interesting about the very, very beginning of the pod. I can't remember which one actually mentioned the separation between, or the difference maybe, between depression and anxiety, which, I mean, obviously they're different, but what was really like, wow, I never thought about it like that before for me, was depression focuses on the past, anxiety focuses on the future.
Yes.
And it was very casual. Like he just kind of threw it in when they were talking about the 2 things, because one of them suffers from depression, the other suffers from anxiety. And they were like, oh yeah, well, he's always living in the past and I'm always living in the future. And I was like, wow, I never thought about that before. That's very interesting.
That's why we've been given today as a gift. It's a present. Right? To be present. Like it's a gift.
Yeah, there's that. I mean,
good luck with being present, but
I've definitely gone through like moments of depression, but I think for me, consistently through my life has been more anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, fear of the unknown, fear of failure, you know, fear of the pressures of life that, you know, I have to meet these expectations, or, you know, I don't know, pay the bills, even something as mundane as that, you know, and it creates that anxiety. Where one of my dear friends has suffered from depression, and I've not been able to connect with that nearly as much because it's not something that I struggle with as much. However, listening to them just throw that one sentence was very revealing for me. Oh, wow. Depression, you're focused more on the past. Anxiety, you're focused more on the future. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting... I think some people know that without knowing that, and I think some people need to be reminded of that, because it can be hard if you are more one than the other to relate to someone, like you just mentioned. But also, if you are with someone who focuses more on the past, asking them questions that just keep taking them to the past is not actually that helpful. Versus like someone who focuses a lot on the future, talking about their future. When's your wedding? Are you going to have kids?
Right, that creates when are you doing more anxiety.
That? Like,
this is very good observation.
So this is really funny, because I have some friends who always want to ask things about the future, and like I love that, because obviously be it till you see it. Like, of course I must be thinking about the future a lot, but if I live in the future,
no, actually, be it till you see it is focusing on the present.
Well, correct. No, that's the point. But like, you have to know who you want to be in the future to be present in the thing doing the be it, right?
Yes.
So, which I do. But when people, like I have a couple friends who are always asking about the future. When is this? When is this? And I'm like, oh my God, I just, like, you have no idea. You just put me into a position of anxiety, because I can lean anxious more easily than I can lean depressed. I'm not a depressed. I don't really, and that's like, sometimes I wonder, I'm like, is there something, should I really think about the past a little bit more? But like, I don't, I like, you know, I've moved on, healed from it, dealt with it, decided how I feel about that. I'm good. And so I tend to shy away from people where the questions are all futuristic.
Interesting.
How are you going to do that? When are you going to do that? What is this going to be? And I'm like, I actually can hear myself try to make the question shorter or change the subject, because some of those questions can create anxiety, and I'm at a party and now I'm anxious.
Right.
And I'm a high functioning introvert. So I'm already like, I want to see all of you. I need to go lay down.
That's a great observation about the questions, you know, and I wonder, like, I wonder about the psychology behind that, if it would make more sense to ask future questions to people who are suffering from depression as opposed to
maybe we'll
past
bring
questions,
maybe bring my therapist
and vice
on.
versa, like asking past questions to people who are more prone to anxiety.
Yeah, so we should have a little like checklist, like, or a badge. This is my name, and I prefer questions about this. Like, you know, you have your pronouns, and then you have like, I lean anxious, I lean depressed.
Right.
Please ask me only questions about that.
Ask me about my future. Ask me about my past.
Oh my God. It's like, I think about my Uber profile that I haven't filled out, but I want to go like, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but if you have to ask me about my future.
Yeah. No, not me, but yes.
Ask
So maybe we'll have one of my therapists on. I don't like what my past therapist on to like answer, see if we're on the right track here before you all.
Interesting supposition.
This is a hypothesis right now, everyone. Please don't go like performing an experiment and blaming us. So.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's really funny that you say that, because one of the comments that I want to say it was Zach had was, my biggest fear is that I will give advice on our podcast that will actually hurt someone.
Because he's so, like, it's so perfectly aligned with his anxiety.
Yeah. And so, you know, the disclaimer that you just gave, that made me laugh. Yeah.
Well, I think I resonate with him a lot. But it's true. I'm like, oh, please don't, like, you know, don't go jump off a cliff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like let's experiment first in a safe place.
Okay, now let's talk about those be it action items. What bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted action items can we take away from your conversation with Jeremy and Zach from the Fit Mess? So I'm going to hop in real quick. They each had one that that they shared that was really, really great. I thought this one was really reflective of my life, and it was question your own beliefs. Mm-hmm. And this is a tough one, I think, you know, especially if you were raised religious or had a very opinionated adult, you know, in your life, parent or teacher. And I know, for example, that had I met you prior to my first marriage, there's not a chance that we ever would have been together.
Oh, for sure. Don't worry. Same.
Yeah, because I had a very specific conceptualization of right, wrong, rules, life. This is how it should not be, all those things. And the only reason that changed was because I had an incredibly traumatic event happen, my divorce, and it caused a massive introspection, like reflection, internal reflection of like, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? I think I reviewed every fucking conversation that she and I had ever, you know, ever. And I analyzed it and thought about it and like looked to see, what did I miss? How did I get to where I was? All this kind of thing. And there were so many instances of me deciding I wasn't happy with myself in the situations that she and I had gone through, that forced me to look at me. And that was like a unique moment in my life. I don't know that I would have changed or reviewed or questioned my own beliefs had I not gone through this emotionally devastating event. Otherwise, I probably would have just, kept on keeping on, and I would have been the same person that I was, and my life wouldn't be anything like it is today.
That's true.
Yes. Well, that's true.
I actually really loved when they said that, because I think people say that, like, you should question, like, because thoughts become facts, and then facts become, you think something up, you believe it. And like, we know on certain levels, we hear that and we go, But like, have you ever actually written down what you believe? And have you ever just like thought about, like, do you know why you believe that? I'm not saying what you believe as you're listening is wrong, or that should be like.
I think that's key to clarify.
Yeah, because I actually don't. I think a lot of people, most of their beliefs have good intentions, but I do think.
Well, I mean, I don't even know if they have intentions or not.
Yeah, well, that's
it's just their belief.
Yeah.
Why do you believe what you believe?
And so, not to like look at your beliefs and go, all these are wrong. Your beliefs are not wrong inherently, but do you know why you believe them? And does that belief align with who you want to be in this world? Yeah. And who you want people to think you are in this world. And so I know.
And past who, it's also about yourself. Like, are you comfortable with those? And why, I think that the asking, why do you believe what you believe? And actually going back and like, do you believe what you believe because that's what you were told, you read in a book, because of personal experience? I mean, there's like only a few options of why you believe what you believe.
Yeah. I mean, like, think about about how you feel about money, your beliefs around that. Who told you that? Your beliefs around yourself. Who said that? Yeah. Your beliefs about other people and what their intentions are to other people. Yeah. Who told you that? Because when you are born, you don't have beliefs.
Right. You don't.
You are, you want to eat, sleep, and pee. Like that's what your whole intentions are. And then they are passed along, and like
they are learned from somewhere.
They're learned, and I have to say, like, I don't know how some of the beliefs that my family had, I thought I didn't believe, but like my actions were otherwise, especially when it came around money. But certain beliefs that like I remember certain family members having around types of people and kinds of people and things like that, I really disagreed with. Mm-hmm. But I had to like ask myself, why was I in conflict with that, and what is going on there, and like how do I feel about that? And I think as we get as adults, especially as like every day it feels like the world is burning down, it is challenging your beliefs. Yeah. Now, if your reaction is instant, like whatever, that's okay if you have taken the time to ask yourself why you believe that way and why you're reacting that way in the moment.
Yeah, and I think right now what I'm envisioning in my mind is, very foundational beliefs like religion and, society and, otherizing people and all that. Yep. However, it doesn't have to be quite as foundational as that. Although this is foundational, not to minimize it, but I think it was Zach's example was he was overweight as a kid. And so he was always told, you're not good enough. You're the fat kid. And now he's 43 and he's not, overweight anymore, but he still sees himself as that. He's still in like,
that's a complicated complicated belief, because his thoughts, his beliefs are because of what people told him and kept him.
Yeah. And when he was talking about this, he was saying, why do I believe that? And where did that come from? And is that something that I should still be holding on to?
Well, and for the record, overweight or not, no one gets to tell you you're not good enough. You are good enough by being a fucking human being. Like, It doesn't actually matter what the scale says. Like, you are good enough. Yeah. And I think like.
So it's interesting because, I guess what I was saying was the people, the beliefs that I was challenging were beliefs that I learned people were sowing into me with the intention of good, whereas the beliefs that he has learned and embraced were sown into him with the intention of hurt and negative and bad. Either situation, you're still embracing beliefs, and why are you doing that? And should you be?
Yeah. This is, y'all, that's a heavy beit action item. We could have just stopped there, but we have one more.
We do.
So good luck with that one. I think it's important to do it around the holidays, specifically before you hang out with your family.
Yeah.
Because you're going to hang out with your family, and you need to be like really a parent. Like I'm going to give you something really quick. You're going to have conflict with them, whether you say it out loud or in your head. Mm-hmm. If you are clear on why you believe what you believe, you will have less anxiety, depression, frustration, like inner turmoil, because you'll be like, this is what I believe, and they believe that, but like, I don't have to believe that.
Right. You'll be secure in your beliefs.
At the early part of this year, there was a situation that happened, and I called my therapist, and I was like, this happened. I can't believe I did this. I thought I was over this. And she said, it's actually okay you got angry about that. What's not okay is that you got mad at yourself for being angry about that. Like, it's not okay that you judged yourself. That's where the work is. And so if you do this beit action item homework, and you have a moment you want to punch a pillow at your parents' house at Christmas time, that is okay. Yeah. Don't get mad at yourself. Don't punch them, and don't judge yourself.
Don't punch them, and don't judge yourself for getting angry. Yeah, it's okay to get angry. That's normal. That's life. That's humanity.
You're supposed to feel your feelings. Yeah. And it is part of the process. Just because you have done the work to figure out what your beliefs are, and then you go and put yourself in a situation where you're frustrated by other people's beliefs because you're like, how can they believe that I love this person and they believe something I don't believe? It is okay to be upset at that. It's not okay to get upset at yourself for being upset at that, because you're a human being who is in process, and you will eventually get to a place where like you can let that go, because you know that you're doing the work in other places where it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Anyways, my favorite action item after that heavy one, which I don't think that was our intention, but I'm just thinking about the person listening to this, and I'm in the time of year that they're listening to this too. And it's like, that's a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Good luck. Let me know how it goes. They said, Jeremy said, when you want to see change in your life, it's more than just a desire. It is a decision. And so you have to see and believe that you are the person that can be and want to be that. So his example was he wanted to be a bike guy. So he didn't just think, I want to be a bike guy. Someday I'll be a bike guy, and like look at bikers and go, I want to be a bike guy. I think there was like a cycle actually versus like a motorcycle. But instead of just like wanting to be a bike guy and someday being a bike guy, he like rode his bike to work. So guess what? He made the decision. I want to see this change. I want to be this person. I'm going to do this thing to have that thing in my life.
Yeah. And he took action on it, but also before even he took action on it, he was like, oh, it'd be cool if I was the bike guy. And then he's like, no, it needs to be more than that. It was, I am the bike guy. I am. I'm the guy. I'm the guy who gets up at 5 a.m. and gets that bike, uniform on and rides 10 miles to get to wherever he was going. I am that guy. And he made that decision before he even took that action.
Which goes back to the question we answered today, which is like, if you are that person who has these goals achieved at the next year, then what does that person do? That person puts on that, I think it's like a singlet. That person, buys the shoes. That person has the fancy backpack that has all the things in it. Like that, you make decisions based on that person, and then you do then the actions follow, and boom, you are that bike guy.
Yeah.
And so, I hope that especially now, and as everything that's going on, if there are changes you want to make in your life, make the decision to have the change happen now, and then allow yourself to take action based on as if that change has happened before you've seen the results of that change happening. And that's what makes the result.
I think we're talking about New Year's resolutions right now. But
no, we don't do resolutions.
I'm aware, but my point is the process of making change.
Well, because we be it till we see it. We take messy action, and we are not making resolutions because who we want to be next year is just like getting like the new update on the iPhone. There's a new update. Okay. Download, implement, let's go. Like all of a sudden your phone has new things it can do because it's like, like for example, what is ours? Like a 13 plus or whatever. So, but it has the operating system of something, point something. My phone doesn't go, I'm a 13 plus. It goes, no, I'm operating with this system. Like it doesn't go, sorry guys, can't upgrade to that. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just goes, now I have these capabilities. Boom. So that's, to me,
you're speaking my tech language here, babe.
Thank goodness, because I was really just like riffing that. You know me, I don't know anything about my tech, but I wrote that blog years ago with Claire Solly, my slingshot friend, and I wrote like there's no such thing as like a new year, new you. It's just the upgraded version of yourself based on the experiences that you have and the decisions that you've made, and the changes that you do to be the person you want to be. Boom. I think you're awesome. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Lesley Logan.
And I'm Brad Crowell.
How are you going to use these in your life? What are you going to do? Which one are you going to take action on right now? Which one are you going to take action on in the future? We want to know. And so what you need to do is share this with a friend, tag the Be It Pod, and tag the Fit Mess so they can see what actions you're taking. And until next time, be it till you see it.
Bye for now.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day. Be It Till You See It is a production of As the Crows Fly Media.
It's written, produced, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell. Our associate producer is Amanda Frattarelli.
Kevin Perez at Disenyo handles all of our audio editing.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to our designer Jairo Mandal for creating all of our visuals, which you can't see because this is a podcast, and our digital producer, Jay Perdoso, for editing all the video each week so you can.
And to Angelina Herrico for transcribing each of our episodes so you can find them on our website. And finally, to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.